In the NBA, there are winners and there are losers, even when games aren't being played. And this offseason, boy, have there been some losers. These are the biggest losers of the NBA summer. Stick around to the end because I've got some things to say. Let's kick things off, though, with the LA Clippers. They had to watch Paul George walk into the Philadelphia 76ers cap space for no return. That's gotta sting when the Clippers back in 2019 gave the Oklahoma City Thunder 5 first-round picks for Paul George, plus this guy named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who happens to be now an MVP candidate today. That's got to sting. Now, to the Clippers' credit, they have bounced back somewhat. They added Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Nicholas Batum. They've added some pieces where they're going to try to recreate Paul George in the aggregate a la Moneyball. But nonetheless, they lost their big star. They were building around Paul George and Kawhi Leonard for years, and the most notable thing the pair did was probably blowing a 3-1 series lead in 2020. And all of this is a direct result of the new collective bargaining agreement, which puts Steve Ballmer directly in the crosshairs, as well as a number of other teams. You see, the NBA realized that the only way to stop teams like the Clippers from just spending and spending and spending and spending was not to try to hurt them in the wallet. That's what the NBA has tried to do before with the luxury tax. But with someone like Steve Ballmer, while trying to hurt his wallet, it's like trying to kill Wolverine with a steak knife. Every time you make a cut, he just instantly heals. You're not going to make any progress. Same thing with Steve Ballmer's wallet. It just constantly regenerates. So the only way to deter Steve Ballmer from continuing to spend was actually to hurt his ability to build his team. And that is what the new CBA has done. Now, Paul George has since said that he would have stayed with the Clippers had they given him the same contract as Kawhi Leonard, a 3-year deal plus a no-trade clause, or given him a 4-year deal without the no-trade clause. But the Clippers, they didn't want to even go that far to keep Paul George, and they had to watch their guy walk away. They're not the only ones who had a bad summer, though. The Denver Nuggets also lost a player. Similar situation with the collective bargaining agreement, but in this case, it was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Nowhere near the star power of Paul George, of course, but KCP was extremely important to the Denver Nuggets. Instead, he walked into the cap space of the Orlando Magic. The big problem now for the Nuggets, they rely on all of their role players being able to step up and hit big shots when teams are really focusing on Nikola Jokic, when teams are focusing on Jamal Murray. That's what made that championship Nuggets team so great, is that all the other guys would step up and make big plays. Now it's going to be Christian Braun stepping into that KCP role. Certainly not the proven performer that KCP was, and certainly not the shooter that KCP is as well. So the Nuggets lose a great shooter, a great off-ball cutter, and probably their best point of attack defender. That is going to set them back quite a bit in a Western Conference that is extremely unforgiving. On top of that, the Denver Nuggets are now the next team in a long line that are going to convince themselves that they can make it work with Russell Westbrook on their roster. Let's jump over to the Eastern Conference and the Atlanta Hawks. Now, how can the team that got the number 1 overall pick be a loser this summer? Well, they got the number 1 overall pick, but in a year where there wasn't a number 1 overall talent in this draft. No, this is a draft that was extremely flat, and there was no superstar talent. There's no Zion. There's no Wemby in this draft class. There's no Cooper Flagg, who's going to be there next year. So the Atlanta Hawks, they get the number 1 overall pick, and there's not that kind of transcendent talent. They got Zachary Reese-Shea, who certainly has his merits, but he's not the kind of transformative superstar that you'd be hoping to get with a first overall pick. Lucky for the Hawks that they got the number 1 pick, but unlucky that this is the year they happen to get it. On top of that, I was pretty underwhelmed with the DeJounte Murray return. They got a couple of first-round picks, but they're not projected to be great first. They got Dyson Daniels. There's something, but it seemed like they gave up more to get DeJounte Murray just a few years ago, and then the experiment with Trae Young and Murray in the same backcourt, it just did not work. So despite getting the number 1 overall pick, I think the Hawks are one of the losers of the summer. But let's wrap things up with my Lakers. Maybe the easiest team to pick as a loser this summer because they haven't done anything. They have done nothing. They've re-signed their own players. They signed Max Christie, who didn't get a lot of minutes last year. I thought that was a mistake, but They brought him back. They signed their draft picks in Dalton Knecht, and they were fortunate that Dalton Knecht fell to 17. He was mocked as high as 6. Some places fell to 17. That was a win for the team. But Bronny James, they signed him as well. Had to watch guys like Taurean Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie walk away as the Lakers ran out of roster spots. LeBron even offered to take less money for the Lakers to go out there and spend, to have a mid-level exception, to go get somebody in free agency, and they weren't able to do it. They couldn't find a player on LeBron's list to take the mid-level exception. That was not a good look. They had a very public swing and miss trying to convince Dan Hurley to leave UConn for LA, and they got rejected. And now one of the best arguments for the idea that the Lakers have actually gotten better this summer is that they've added JJ Redick, a guy who has literally never coached before. Now, I do think JJ is an impressive basketball mind. I'm rooting for him, obviously. I hope that it works out for him. But it has been a brutal summer for a Lakers team that has had to watch Anthony Davis and LeBron James play with Team USA in the Olympics, show that they still have it, that they've got enough to contend for an NBA championship if the right pieces are around them, and the club has not been able to go out and acquire the necessary pieces or do really anything else for that matter. That is a cruel summer indeed. But everybody, let me know in the comment section, who do you think was the worst? Who had the worst summer of any team in the NBA? Don't forget to subscribe right here to the Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.